You grew your social media following 161,000 followers in 30 days. What's the first step from your experience in growing an audience like that?
It really comes down to 3 stages that I usually see for creators to monetize.
I don't feel like I started learning until the day I dropped out of college.
So I actually dropped out of high school when I was 15.
There's only so many hours in the day you could trade your time for money.
As soon as I started making money online, it changed the game for me.
You're out here in California.
Yes.
And we got to meet up for drinks last time you were here, which is a lot of fun. What are you doing this time in California, and how's it different?
Yeah, so this time I'm out in California working with Kajabi, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and basically creating content with them, meeting the team, and just sort of getting a bit familiar with everything, how everything moves around here. So basically out here for 1 week, It's been great.
That's awesome. And so you're getting to know the team here. You obviously have your own agency back in Tokyo.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about that because you're living in Tokyo right now.
Yeah, definitely.
California is not your home base.
Completely different.
This is like a vacation for you. Tell us a little bit about your journey making it to Tokyo and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so originally I'm from Sydney, Australia, and was born and raised there, grew up there. But when I was 21, I moved to Tokyo. And the whole plan was just to go for a year, test it out, see what happens, right? I just sort of want something different. And then 6 years later, I'm still there. So it's just sort of like gradually happened. I've stayed there. And the reason I stayed there was because things just started taking off. Like as soon as I landed there, I met the right people, started working straight away, getting all these opportunities. And then from there, I started building, content creation, online business, and it's just snowballed from there.
Do you feel like you had that entrepreneur atmosphere back in Sydney, or is that something that started in Tokyo and that's why you kind of connected with it a little bit better?
Definitely had the mindset, but maybe I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted in Sydney. But then as soon as I went to Tokyo, I was definitely focused on like trying to make something work. And luckily, like when you're ready for it and then the opportunities come, you can sort of take advantage of it. But always had the mindset of it, yeah.
So you've always had the entrepreneur mindset. Usually the entrepreneur mindset comes along with having dropped out of school.
Yes.
You know that I dropped out of college to
Yep.
pursue my business. Did you follow a similar path? Did you go through school? How did that work?
Yeah, so I actually dropped out of high school when I was 15. And then from 15, basically, I had like an ultimatum my mum gave me, which was basically like you either drop out and you work, or you drop out and learn like go do a course or something. You're not just going to stay home, basically. And basically from there, I decided to go the education route, but more in a way that I had a bit more control, where instead of school, they're teaching you stuff that you don't maybe want to learn or that's not very beneficial. I was like, okay, let me try to learn skills. And then from there, I'll be able to see what happens along the line. So from basically 15 to 18, I did a bunch of different things. Like I learned like, hotel management, hospitality, event management, personal training, all these different random things that don't really tie together. But I think it was super beneficial because by the time I was 18, I'd tried so many different career paths.
Yeah.
And then it made me like, by the time I was 18, 19, I found content creation. And that's when I was like, okay, like I like this and I can double down on this. So I think it was a blessing in disguise, yeah.
And most people don't find what they want to do until after college.
Exactly.
Or they don't even start the process
Exactly, yeah.
of figuring out what they like or enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that comes along with dropping out early. For me, my path was I dropped out not because I just was like, screw it. I want to just figure it out.
Yeah.
I actually had a passion that I was pursuing.
Definitely.
And the time that I spent on my passion and the time I spent on, what society wanted me to do, which was at that time go to college and start to do internships and start to expand my knowledge in different professions and figure that out.
Yeah.
My passion started to overlap into what I was doing at that time, studying.
Exactly.
So I felt like, when you have this balance of half on what you love to do and half on what you're told to do, if that passion starts to creep into what you're supposed to, just follow it.
100%.
And do you feel like that's what you did?
100%, yeah. And like also as well, like it was a lot to do with timing and just basically just betting on yourself as well, right? Like I feel like sometimes people are afraid to take a leap or they're worried what other people are thinking. And like a lot of it when it comes down to like the college and the uni route, I think a lot of it comes from their parents pressuring them, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And it's sort of, it's sad to see because you're sort of living the life that your parents want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you're not being true to yourself or being authentic to yourself. And luckily I had parents where they were open-minded in the fact where they were like, we're not sure how it's going to turn out, but we're trusting him to figure it out. You know what I mean? So that was a blessing as well. Yeah.
And as two dropouts, we're in the education
Exactly.
space now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, the thing that is so interesting about this is that I don't feel like I started learning until the day I dropped out of college.
Yes.
The time span of what happened before then was so structured, and then I found a real passion for learning once I dropped out.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm sharing here, and that's what Kajabi is, and why it's so cool is that it's a platform that allows you to share your knowledge online.
Yeah, definitely.
And I found, I had a passion for drones and entrepreneurship and the business side of drones,
Yes.
real estate photography and construction and agricultural surveying, and it was so fun for me. And then I got to this fork in the road where I realized I was trading my time for money.
Yes.
And there's only so many hours in the day you could trade your time for money.
For sure.
And at that time, people are reaching out saying, hey, when they see something that someone is passionate about, they want to learn that thing.
100%,
And it
100%.
kind of spreads. And so that's when I started sharing. Did you come across something similar? And what's your role in this education space now?
Yeah, so my background is I actually was a full-time photographer and filmmaker for 5 years. And basically that's how my journey started. So firstly, I had an interest in photography, and then I went from learning it myself, self-teaching, to actually starting to pick up jobs, and like same thing to you, like, trading my time for money. And that was cool for the first couple of years, but I started to realize that it's not scalable. I'm more interested in the business side than the actual like deliverable side.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's when I started to think about the idea of selling digital products. So at the start was just like editing filters for your photos, and then secondly was an online course as well that I actually sold through Kajabi. And as soon as I started making money online, like it changed the game for me. Like when I got like the first sale, even though it was like $20 for a preset pack,
Yeah.
and even though at the time I was maybe charging 1,000, 1,500 for my photography shoots, that $20 was way more like, I don't know, it changed the game for me because I made it the money while I was sleeping, basically.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, okay, let's double down on this. And then doubling down, and then creating courses, coaching offers. Now I've sort of pivoted in a way where it's more content marketing rather than just photography. But yeah, I always tell creators, like, it's cool to do the service route when you're first starting out just to get some cash flow, but always trying to productize that is sort of the next step and the key to scaling as well.
And it seems like you've always had a knack for entrepreneurship and just figuring it out.
Yeah.
That grit to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because when you shifted into content creation, you did something really remarkable, which was you grew your social media following 161,000 followers in 30 days.
30 days, yeah, it was wild. It was wild. Like, because at the time before that moment, I was creating content online, but it was more just showing my photos.
Yeah.
It wasn't really me out there teaching. And then what I realized was if I really wanted to go down the digital product route and like start building out the online business side of things, I had to put my face to camera and start teaching, right? And I had a lot of imposter syndrome, comparison trap. Like there was a lot of mindset issues that I had around that, just because you're going from a service provider to now being a teacher, basically, right?
Yes.
And sometimes like people think like, who am I to teach? Like, what have I done? And all these different things. But you just got to get over that. And basically, as soon as I did it, I think within like 13 days of creating content, just like educational, provide value, yeah, that happened. 161,000 followers in 30 days. And then 7 months later, I was able to grow my whole online audience to over 300,000.
Wow.
So, and obviously with that comes a lot of like opportunities, scale, just different things started happening, and that's where we are now. Yeah.
That's incredible. And so for those out there that are watching this and wanting to build a personal brand and sell digital products online, what's the first step from your experience in growing an audience like that?
Yeah, so I guess it really comes down to 3 stages that I usually see for creators to monetize, where it's firstly learn a skill, because you have to learn something, right? It could be like copywriting, it could be marketing, it could be content creation, whatever that is, learn that. And then secondly, then over time, you can start providing that as a service. And then later down the line, you're going to then productize that, right? And usually along that journey, there's different steps within each of those steps. But basically, to build your audience around that, you're just going to start creating content, teaching that skill, right? And if you feel like maybe you're a complete beginner and who am I to teach, you could also go down the route of being like a curator, which is basically where you're consuming the content anyway to learn the skill. And all you need to do is distill the information that you're learning to your audience, right? And that's sort of a hack that I'm teaching my students at the moment, because it's a common thing where people feel like I'm not qualified to teach. I just started learning this skill, and you don't want to fake it as well, right? You want to be authentic to yourself. And I feel like the curation route is a key to doing that, because you're not really teaching your lessons. It's more you're just distilling information from the greats above, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of people have grew their audiences through that way. Like Tim Ferriss did it. Ryan Holiday did it with Stoicism. So it's a playbook that I think a lot of people can follow.
And you were telling me earlier how this side of things, the production, what you guys don't see right here is Josh behind the camera, you know, all these cameras and lighting and audio and what goes into it. Now, there's obviously a way to create high quality videos from the comfort of your own home. And there are tactics to do that that don't require a full studio. You see a lot of content creators do it with just their phones.
Definitely.
But there's a step before it. Tell us what that step is.
So running our agency, it was funny where we originally started the agency with just editing was our core offer, and it worked for a while, but then we started to hit a ceiling where we started to realize that a lot of our clients were obviously struggling with editing, but the key thing that they were struggling with was pre-production. So that could, you know, like what camera gear to use, the brand strategy, how to script videos, like all of that you don't really see before they actually sit in front of the camera. So then we sort of pivoted recently and shifted more to focusing on that. And then now editing is just an add-on or a nice to have. And basically a framework that I teach my clients and also my coaching students is, I call it the ABC framework, which is basically 3 different styles of content that sort of create a holistic personal brand. So A being authority type of content, which is going to be your how-tos, your top tips, just real value-based content. And then B is boost content, which is more following trends, talking about broader topics. And the goal of that is to just cast a wider net with your audience, right? And then C is community content, which is more talking about who you are, like talking about, for example, like Brandon's story. Who is Brandon? Like your opinions, and just that's sort of what helps you connect with your audience. And when you follow sort of that 3-step framework, it just helps simplify the process a little bit more. And that's sort of been working well with our clients.
And so now you do this for your clients.
Yeah.
You have created an agency to specialize in just that thing. Tell us a little bit about how that agency came to be and what some of your clients are getting from your services at the moment.
Definitely. So like you mentioned before, when I had that crazy growth, 160,000 followers in 30 days, from there, just organically, people just started, you know, reaching out, being like, how are you doing this? You know, like, how did that happen?
I did. You know, that's how we met, is this community of just wanting to learn more.
So people were just curious, right? And I already had a team in place at the time. So I had, I think, 2 editors at the time that were doing all of my content. And I remember speaking to them and I was like, yo, like if I took on more clients, do you think we could handle that workload? And they were like, yeah, let's do it, you know? And then from there, we got 1 or 2 clients and it's just built, you know, just snowballed really from there. And basically, we've been having awesome results. Like one of our clients, she's based out in Australia, and we helped her gain 10,000 followers in 6 days.
Wow.
Which is like, that was mind-blowing for us, which was really cool. And we work with business owners, service providers, basically anyone that is looking to turn their social media into a sales channel for their business.
And that kind of growth could start a business overnight.
Game changer, even for her. So she runs like a chatbot agency, and at the time she was relying heavily on paid ads for all her leads. But now, you know, her Instagram has become an actual lead generation tool that she's using, and her obviously deal sizes are big. Like if she can close 1 client, that's you know, the retainer that she pays us is peanuts compared to what she gets. You know, so we're definitely happy to help her out, and then also we're looking to expand as well.
I want to talk about how Kajabi plays a role in all this, because that's our atmosphere, our community, and our environment. We're actually going to go head over there in just a second, right?
For sure.
Tell us what we can expect.
So we're going to be checking out the new office, which is beautiful, out in Newport as well. And basically, the thing with Kajabi that I love is just basically it empowers you know, just people that to create any type of the business that they want online. You know, some of the people that I've interviewed or worked with through Kajabi, I've just started to realize that like you can really make money any way possible, right? Like I remember there's this one lady, she made like $1 million by selling a course teaching homeschooling teachers how to teach art.
Oh my God.
Like that's like the most like specific niche possible, right? But like it just shows that you can really do anything, and like by putting yourself out there, creating content online, you know, packaging up your knowledge and experiences, you can really build a real business, which is awesome. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear how you've leveraged Kajabi. Let's go head over there and take a look.
Let's do it, man. Let's go.